Hello guys, in this video I will show you how to create YouTube thumbnails like KSS. With this, we are not going to create the same YouTube thumbnail like KSS, but we are going to create a similar YouTube thumbnail like KSS. So let's jump right in. So we will begin by creating a new document. The size of a thumbnail is 1280 by 720 pixels. So go ahead and create 1280 by 720 pixels. Follow these settings and click create. So KSS normally use a solid color background as in blue black. So we begin by creating a solid color background. So go to the adjustment icon, click and then select solid color. So let's click and drag it all the way here and let's choose a color from this particular area and click. All right, so right now you can also double click here and still make adjustment. All right, so the next thing that we need to do is to bring in our shapes to create this particular thumbnail. So let's select the rectangle tool and create a shape. So create. All right, so with this, in order to position this particular shape at center, we need to press Ctrl+A on our keyboard to create a selection around the entire work. So select the move tool, and with the move tool, from left to right, you can center by clicking this, and then from top to bottom, you can center by clicking this icon. So now that we've centered it, we don't need the selection anymore. So press Ctrl+D to do away with the selection. Now to work with this particular shape, you need to select the rectangle shape and the property panel will pop up here. You can also access the property panel by clicking on this particular icon. Or you can also go to the Windows tab and make sure property is checked. Alright, so from here, let's set a color for this particular shape. So we will make a duplicate of this shape. Let's set a color for this, okay. But before we set the color, let's work with its corner radius. So from here, let's go to the property, and then with here, you can increase the corner radius. So with this, we are going to set it to 50 pixels. And from this same property panel, you can also access the fill color and then the stroke. So from here, we don't need any fill color for the big or the larger shape. And we are going to set the stroke to, let's say, this color. We are just using this color for now. We are going to make changes to it. So let me bring it back. And from here, you can access the type of lines that you want to set for the stroke. You can have a dash, you can have a dotted, and we want a straight one. So the size of the stroke is too big. You can also double click here and enter a particular number. In this scenario, I'll enter 15 and hit OK. If you think 15 is too big, you can click on the drop down and also work on this. So I will use 7. Okay, so we can double click, enter 7. 7 is too small, so 10. All right, so I think 10 is okay for me. Now let's make a duplicate of this particular shape here. Okay, so you can do this in 2 different ways. So you can first click and drag it to this new layer icon and to make a duplicate, or you can press Ctrl+J to make a duplicate. Okay, so let's quickly rename these particular shapes. Okay, so we already have a name for it, rectangle 1 and then rectangle copy. So in order not to confuse ourselves, let's make it rectangle 2. So with the second rectangle, let's press Ctrl+T and hold down Alt and then resize it like this. Okay, so in this scenario, I think this area is okay. All right, so now with this second one, we want to set a fill color for the second rectangle or rectangle 2. How do we go about that? You can select the rectangle tool again, and with this, you can set the fill color to a particular color. And in this scenario, you go for red, because KSS normally use red as their fill color. All right, so we have this and we are good to go. Now let's hide the second rectangle for now and go back to the first one. We have something to, we have a little thing to do or a little work to do here. KSS normally hide this particular area and then that particular area. So how do we do this? So let's select the rectangular marquee tool and make a selection around this area. Okay, so with the help of the space bar, you can move your selection around anywhere that you want. Okay, so we are not going to make use of it, so let me recreate it. So create this and place it here. So we have made the first selection. We also don't need this area, so we need to add a selection. You can do this in two different ways. You can click on this, and as you can see beside this particular icon, you can see a plus sign, so you can add a selection. Or with this one selected, you can press and hold your shift and still have this plus icon. Okay, so now let's hold shift. So after creating this selection, let's click on this adjustment icon. So now we have this part to be hidden. With the help of the layer mask, and with the layer mask selected, press Ctrl or Command I to invert this particular selection. Let's bring back the second shape. Alright, so from here, we need to change the color of this particular one. When you double click and change the color from here, it won't work because we are not working with the fill color here. We are working with the stroke. Select this shape, go back to rectangle shape, and from here we are going to pick a color like this, because KSS don't use the same red color from here, but something like a pink kind of color. So you can double click here and make adjust. We are good to go. So something like this. Okay, so now from here we have to work with this, create a space for this side. So let's select this one again. We can shift it to this side a little bit. We can also select and bring this one to this side a little bit. Now with the shape here, the first rectangle shape, we can unlink this and we can move the particular area that was hidden. Okay, so we can unlink it and move the area that we masked out. So select this thumbnail and make sure to move it a little bit around, and make sure it doesn't affect here. So move it upwards by hitting the up arrow key. So this is quite good. And select the second rectangle shape and let's reduce the size of it a little bit. Hit enter. Now we need to bring in our subject and also add some few touches. So let's go ahead. I have all these to be ready in my folder. So let's bring in the hour of the day and resize it a little bit, and now place it around here. So you can work with the color here. As I said, we are not creating exact same thing, but we are creating something similar. The next thing is to bring in our subject here. So the subject should be on the second rectangle shape. So select it, bring in your subject. I have the background removed already, so I'm going to place it here. So when you are done, you can press enter on your keyboard or you can click on this icon. So you want to max this area out, and we can do it in so many ways, but the only way I'm going to show you is to create a clipping mask. So it needs to be inside this particular shape. So with this, you can create it in two different ways. You can right click and select create clipping mask, or you can press or hold the Alt or Option and then place your cursor in between these two layers, and you have your shape transform to this, from this to that, and then you click. So you have it. So now you can work with the colors over here. So let me try to do something. Go to filter, camera raw filter. So with this, you can select basic and increase this side a little bit. Let me have a little bit of exposure. So contrast, you can reduce it, drop in the shadow. Also open details, and when you zoom in, you see that we have a little bit of noise, so you can reduce the noise and you are good to go. So click OK, and this is the changes that we've made. So from here, we have to add some small things to it. We are going to first add the text. So let's quickly select the type tool and make a click. So I don't have the exact text that KSS use, but I have something similar for Anton. Okay, so you can download it, and I'll put the link in the description. So from here, let's type in our text. And KSS normally use white and yellow as their font color. So highlight all your text. You can do it by also double clicking here to highlight your text. So double click on this thumbnail and then come back to the character panel. If you can't find it here, you can select this and it will pop up. Let's work with the spacing. So when you click and drag it, you have it moving here and there. Okay, so let me set it to around here. This is okay. Make sure the spacing is set to 0 and choose a proper font size. So with this, we want this particular part to have a yellow kind of color. So we'll bring it here and choose yellow. Now it's time to position the text. So select the move tool, click and drag it to somewhere here. So now the next thing is to bring in a logo from KSS. I can create it, and you also can create it from scratch. But for the purpose of this video not to be long, I'm going to cut this yellow part out. Alright, so once that I've cut it out, let me reduce the size and place this here. So we are almost done. The last thing that we need to do is to make some few touches that KSS normally does. So at some point, we create a stroke for the subject. So when you double click at this side of the layer, you can go to stroke and set this to somewhere white. And now drag it here and you can work with the size of the stroke. Okay, so to make it look a little bit appealing. And at some point too, they don't use it, they also create a beautiful effect here. So let me show you how. So make sure you select the pen tool, create a new layer above this, and or you can also choose not to create a new layer, but you can still work with it. So let me delete it, and now let's create something like this. They used to create something like this, and hold the Alt key and bring back the point. Now go back to the first one, click and drag, don't release, and create something like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and create another one from here, and click and drag again like this. Now hold the Alt or Option and bring back your point again. Now release everything, come back to the first point. So click and drag like this one again. We are good to go. So we need to create one more or two of it. So click here and here again. Then repeat this process again. All right, so right now that we are done creating these particular ones, we need to go to Path and hold down Control, Command, and click. This will create a selection for whatever that we created with the pen tool. So now with this, let's go here, create a solid color. And from here, we are going to pick a yellow color, which is this one. So they have something like this. If you don't want all of them, you can select the layer mask And with the help of the brush tool, flow and opacity to 100, you can decide to clean some part or some areas of it if you don't need it. But in this scenario, I still need it. So the last thing is to create an arrow. Okay, so let's still use the pen tool, and we want the arrow to move from here to this particular area. So let's create it using the pen tool. So make a click and select somewhere here and drag it. Okay. Now, don't remember to use the Alt or Option to bring back your anchor point. And now let's create something like this, and we want our arrow to be pointing to this area. So let's bring it somewhere here and here. Then the final touch, we bring it over here and like this. Okay. Let's also create a fill color for this. With this time, we are going to set it to white. And now you can name this as arrow. So double click on the side of arrow layer, go to stroke and set the stroke to red or something. Okay, so KSS normally use it. So go back to the stroke. The stroke size is too big, so let's set it to around 4 and hit OK. So now we are having something useful. So double click on this side again, go to drop shadow and drop a little bit of a shadow to it so that this will have a very nice. So you can reduce the opacity of the shadow. The angle is too wide, and then the spread. Alright guys, so that's it. If you want me to create more videos on how KSS design their thumbnails, especially on the breakdown and other thumbnails on KSS, please let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.